Welcome to the 37th edition of Women's Wrestling Weekly, the show. I'm Kyle Klingman, joined by Scott Beck. Scott, of course, we're going to get into Fargo. But first, I want to talk about someone that was brought to my attention, Camilla Hathaway. She's from Pennsylvania. Juliet Alt, who is ranked nationally, she brought it to my attention. She said, you should interview Camilla Hathaway. She started wrestling at 8 years old and she placed third at Super 32 as a 13-year-old. And so I'm going in my head, she'd never heard of wrestling, never gotten involved in wrestling until she started at 8 years old. And then at the age of 13, you're placing third at Super 32, a prominent wrestling tournament. She's not even age eligible to go to 16U, so she wasn't at Fargo. And you watch her, she loses 6-5 in, I think, the quarterfinals, and then she wrestles her way back. She had a big win over Isis France. France tried to throw it back. Wasn't a good move by France, but what I was impressed with was just her mentality to go for the kill and go for a half and get the fall. And it's amazing to me, and I think the point here is that sometimes when you're a blank slate, you come in with no knowledge of wrestling, you can mold that clay and make them into something. And I asked her dad why he thinks that she's been so exponentially good, and he just talked about, he said she's ADHD, and she said if you know anything about that, it laser focuses you on things that you're interested in, and she's never been afraid to work. And so she's locked into this, and he says he's not afraid of burnout because she's so laser focused, and they actually have to rein her in a little bit. So it's just amazing to me that someone could make that much gain over 5 years having zero wrestling experience.
Yeah, I mean, well, eight's not that, I mean, eight's pretty young actually to start, but like you're saying with the clay kind of concept, I remember talking just randomly thinking of this when I was walking around Valiant and talking to Angel Sakudo, and I was talking about who goes to Valiant, how does it get the people in? And he's like, they have mixed feelings because sometimes you want somebody that's really interesting, really good. He goes, but sometimes I just want good clay that I can mold and doesn't have bad habits where we can put in our system. Sometimes if you have some accoladed person who's 15, 16 years old, it's a different high school, they transfer, they may have a whole system, they have a way of thinking about it, but sometimes the best way is to be able to start somebody from scratch. And especially, in this case, to what you're saying, you're somebody who's hyper focused and really into it, and they can make gains really quickly, and you see that.
The other piece was the coaching. Matt Coker, who was an All-American at Pitt, he's been instrumental in that. And it was fun going back when you go into these dives and these rabbit holes as you go back and watch all these matches. There was a match for the U15 Pan-Ams where Pan Am qualifier, excuse me, where he's in the corner and his coaching is just so spot on. He's saying the right things, he's saying it in the right amounts, and it's penetrating her, and she's listening to it and she's processing it. We've talked about that. Corner coaching really is an art. And a lot of times you're just saying all these things. You got to do this, you got to do this position, and you're freaking them out. Corner coaching is one of the most difficult things to do. And there's some high level coaches who are good in the room and good at development that may not be good in the corner.
Yeah, well, it's also the demeanor matters, and sometimes calmer is better. I'm not saying that aren't some coaches that are very aggressive and very intense, and that can work for some people. But if you talk to a lot of coaches, they'll say that as they've gotten better and more seasoned and coach more athletes, they've learned to say less and more specific things and laser focused on what they say when they open their mouth, as opposed to just trying to talk somebody through the match. It's very distracting when and it's hard not to do that, especially if there's somebody that's new in wrestling that doesn't really know what they're doing, or you're blatantly watching a position and they're just doing something wrong. But if you're just screaming all the time, it can be confusing. And, I was as big a victim of that as anybody. I mean, you just want to, you care about your athlete. You just want to scream stuff out, but less is more. And I think the biggest thing, especially when you have two people in the corner, is the concept of one voice, that there's really one person doing the talking, especially during the action.
And again, we've said this before with other athletes. Camilla Hathaway is now 14 years old. Who cares if you take losses? Go have a blast, learn, grow, find the best competition. So this isn't meant to put any pressure on her. She's won a U15 Pan Am already, but just
Good for
go and
her.
have fun with it and just continue to grow. I think she's on that path. I'm not saying she wouldn't do that anyway, but it's cool to see that a 13-year-old can do that at Super 32, come back, get third place. And she's just locked into it, and the clay is being molded. She didn't have a preconceived notion of what the sport is. She didn't know anything about it. And so just to have that laser beam focus, it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, good. She's on my radar now.
The goal of wrestling is pins, and there's another pin though for USA Wrestling. It's a performance index, and you've had some issues with this, and for good reason, because it's a way to rank wrestlers and where they are in the pecking order. And sometimes we'll look at it and say, how could this person be ranked ahead of this person when clearly they are way better? They have better accolades. They're using cadet level results to go against senior level results. But I think you have some intel on what it really means.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time going into all the depth of it. I'll touch on a couple of the salient points, but Jason Bryant did an interview with Dave Matthews, who worked for USA Wrestling, who was a coach at Life University and Team Georgia. And Matthews explained some of this. So the first time I had it was like an 8-minute interview. It was the first time really got to hear it, the understanding of it. Because when it first came out, it just showed up one day on the USA website. They're like, well, this is meant to show who, over time should win based on results, but didn't really go into it. And a couple of the issues. Dave Matthews said, number one, you start and you get points. Like every starts at 1,000, you get points if you win, and especially if you beat a quality opponent, and you get points subtracted if you lose, especially the lesser opponents. But those points were all cumulative and ranked equally. So that's one of the flaws, because I'd always look at it and say, why on earth does this 15-year-old or this 17-year-old have a higher pin than a senior world medalist? Because clearly, if that's supposed to say who would win, the senior world medalist will absolutely obliterate that person. Or how can this person have a higher pin than that person when this person just teched him 2 weeks ago? Number one, the pin's supposed to be over time, so one match shouldn't change it. But then again, it shouldn't be that bad. But what happens is people that wrestle a lot of matches, you get points, and the points have been up to now been weighted equally. So somebody who's 9 years old and wins a lot of matches, their pin is going up as they're winning, especially if they beat decent people. Somebody could be in a state where they don't have a lot of USA Wrestling sanctioned matches. And these are only like, quote, USA Wrestling matches that are under the auspices of USA Wrestling. So if somebody, maybe just competes a lot, beats a lot of people, and the ranking goes up. But I'm still like, well, why should this person who's way younger and clearly there's no level differentiation, or you have a senior that hasn't wrestled in 8 years and they have a legacy pin that's higher, and they're either old, retired, or just, was going down, but they stopped wrestling, so they didn't lose points. What they're going to do is there's got to be some type of weighting for like accounting less when you're younger. And they're going to put some factor that will weight it less, some ratio, and they'll adjust to that. So that's good. They're thinking about that. The other thing is, this was really to me, the more important point. It's basically meant to separate. So basically say, okay, if we have 64 people, who are the, quote, 8 best or 16 best, we're going to separate them. It's not we're ranking who's definitely going to win, because maybe the first highest pin might be the 4th best person, but these are the best people. If we get a guess, like who would the All-Americans be? These are them, and then let them fight it out on the mat. So it's not meant to be a seeding, it's meant to be a separation. And what USA Wrestling does, which I'm glad, because I had a problem with the pins, for the senior level events, pin is one of 3 factors, approximately. They'll use pin, so it gives you a broad separation, but then they'll use common opponents and a head-to-head. So it's not meant, the pin alone isn't meant to seed. They use the pin alone at Fargo for this age group where, okay, they're from different states. People wrestle, they're younger, they wrestle different amounts. Let them bang it out on the mat. If an 8 beats a 1, so be it. Then maybe should be the 1 and she'll get more points. But for senior level events, it's one of a few factors. So having the things I left from the interviews, number one, I have a better understanding of why in many cases it doesn't make sense. Number 2, what it's actually used for. And number 3, that they're actually analyzing this and trying to make it better and figuring out ways to weight it properly, so it'll be better as it keeps moving forward. But for what they're using it for, to me, it makes sense.
Will this lower your blood pressure? Because you were mad at Pin for a while, Scott.
Well, it will. I have an understanding of it better, and it should have been explained better. And if anybody wants to see it, go back and look. There's an interview with Jason Bryant did with Dave Matthews. But yeah, I mean, I think it could have been introduced with a little more clarity.
Taina Fernanez doubles up 16U and juniors, which is difficult to do because you have to wrestle essentially at the same time. They have juniors on Saturday morning, and then they have 16U Saturday afternoon into the evening, and then you have quarters, semis, finals, essentially all at the same time. Difficult task. She did it. She only gave up 2 points in the 16U division. She actually gave up a takedown, so it wasn't a couple step outs. But as expected, she dominated her way through. They started at 135 for the 16U, then ran in sequence, skipped 135, and then she was able to wrestle on the junior. She does Taina things. We wonder how she does it. She's just dominates. She does spectacular things. It seems like she's doing something new and innovative. I don't care how the competition is when you're wrestling 14 matches over the course of 2 days. That's a difficult task, and that's going to put wear and tear on your body. So nice job by Taina Fernanez to win 2 titles over 2 days.
A phenomenal job, and yeah, I'm trying to figure out, like, and you and I talk about this, like, what makes her so good and so dominant. She's just relentless and very physical, and very technical in certain things. Her technical skills, you see, are not like massive, broad-based, staggering skills, but she does what she does well. That leg attack to the right leg, very good lace. But she's just waiting for you in the middle. She's exceptionally physical and honey badger, like, relentless attacking. And kudos to her. It's pretty crazy she did this, which we could segue into the other issue. So she's the only athlete that wrestled both, and they changed the order of the matches. I don't love that they did that. Because what if 6 people wanted to wrestle both? Not that 6 people are as good as Taina Fernanez, but who rules are rules. Like, are they going to put an algorithm in to look at the 6 people? If 6 people made it to the finals and reorder that? Or what if 6 people all only are good enough to make it maybe to the semifinals of both? So they're going to start reordering the semifinals to accommodate all these athletes that want to do both. Either, in my opinion, and this is, trust me, you and I are very high in Fernandez. We love her. So this has nothing to do with taking anything away from her. If anything, it's insane that she did this. But either schedule the tournaments so that athletes can compete in both. But if you're going to run them concurrently, like, what are the rules then? Is there a special Fernandez rule, or is it only the people that are U17 world champs get the weights rejiggered? What if somebody made a cadet world team and took 5th? Would they reorder it for them if they want to do both? And what if there's 10 people that are competing in both because they saw Fernandez do this? What is the rule? I'm a rules guy. I want to know the rules, and I don't like special dispensation. I'm sorry, I don't like it at all.
Here's why I absolutely love it. I think it's the right decision. I'm glad they did it. I'm glad they went on a sequence. I'm going to go back to the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta. Michael Johnson.
I was there.
You were there. Okay.
Yes.
Michael Johnson was a track star. He qualified in the 200-meter dash and the 400-meter dash. They changed the entire Olympic track and field schedule to accommodate Michael Johnson because they knew he was the superstar that was going to sell that event. They catered to him.
What if Donovan Bailey from Canada, who won the 100 meters, what if he would have wanted to do 2 events? Would they have switched the whole schedule? Like, when does it end then? And who decides?
I'm just saying.
And that was TV also.
I'm saying in this situation, to me, it's a meritocracy. And so we go back to the national duels. Grand Valley State was not at the national duels because they were a first-year program. I still think that was a mistake. You find a way to get the best teams there because we're trying to promote wrestling. And so Taina Fernanez is a marketable star. And just like the NCAA championships, how you go out of sequence and we say, we want our best match last. I think you have to have flexibility. I don't know that there is a rule that says we have to go in sequence all the way through. I think it's smart move to package this so we can
Okay.
have our best stars on the biggest stage.
Okay, then what would have happened last year if Jaclyn Bouzakis, Heather Crull, like let's say you had other people that were still U16 eligible, you had 3 or 4 of them. So then you just not go. I mean, maybe that, but then say it. I mean, what's the purpose of running them concurrently and then rescheduling it? I mean, is it the Taina Fernanez? I'm a rules guy, and I think once you open Pandora's box, it becomes gray, and then you're picking favorites, and I don't like it. I don't roll that way. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so for me, if it was that situation,
Yeah.
if there are 5 finals, I say you find a way to get them all because it's a unique thing and you package it and you have a chance to
Why
make
not just? Oh, then why not just not run the tournaments concurrently and space them and do one at different times so you could run through them and more athletes and younger athletes? Because let's say you're a great second-year cadet. Like you let's say you're killing people in cadets, and there are some that do it. Maybe they want to challenge themselves in junior. They don't want to give up winning a cadet title if that's their age group, but they're willing to put it on the line to wrestle juniors. More the athletes, that's what we always did. Why'd they go to this? Then start Fargo a day earlier or break it up. Like I'm sorry, why can't the ladies? It's not fair. The best ladies. Gracie Figueroa was teching people in the finals of juniors when she was winning cadets. Michaela both years took better in juniors than she did in cadets. Everybody did it. You know, Aleda Martinez, Ronnie, they were all doing this. Why did they stop that?
Yeah, that's a separate conversation. I think I would love to see more.
Well, it works for everybody except Taina Fernanez. I mean, I just either do it or don't do it. Like, make it that people can do both or don't.
Yeah, and
That's
so she went through a gauntlet. Either way,
Oh,
they,
she did and annihilated everybody.
yeah,
I mean, she's really good. But I'm just saying.
yeah, and they did go out of sequence. What we do know is, without question, the finals match of the tournament was Jaclyn Bouzakis and Katey Valdez. I'm high on both. Katey Valdez is an absolute monster on the mat. All go, all gas. You know she's going to keep coming. And Jaclyn Bouzakis was hitting low-level shots, beautiful, and it looked like John Smith out there. She hits it the same way as John Smith. A good slide by or head shuck. Valdez got back in the match and she picked away at it, and then she got a situation at the end where she took Jaclyn Bouzakis to her back, and Bouzakis fought like crazy to stay off her back as time expired. I think if it had been another 10 seconds, it probably would have been a fall.
It's kind of crazy. Great match because she was down by 9 and came back to the center and was like gung ho. Like you're watching the match, and part of me saying, and she's really good, and Bouzakis looked great the whole match. And I'm watching this, and I'm saying she's like ready to go with 35 seconds, 40 seconds left, down by 9. You think she's winning the way her body language was, and she like literally attacked her, and then she got like a lat whip. Gets Bouzakis to her back. Bouzakis is in like a double hurdle stretch with her legs underneath her. And slowly, Valdez was working her down, trying to lift the head up. And it's one of these things where, probably 10, 15 seconds. I mean, she was getting close. But I left watching that sequence just thinking more of both of them. Like, I didn't think any less of Bouzakis up 9. She got caught in a weird a chin whip that she tried to fight out of it. It looked like, and then just Valdez was relentless in trying to work up the body, knowing she had to rush it, but not wanting to give the position up. And I just left like really loving them both. And it was a great finish to a great match and just great fighting spirit by both of the athletes. Very impressive.
And you're not going to get someone internationally that wrestles like Katey Valdez, who comes in head first. And you saw that with her shot. She was going head first right at her. And I think that's stunning a little bit because you're thinking in your head, what is this person trying to do to me? They are absolutely relentless in this situation.
It's a very physical style. And, the ones that do that, it's tough to handle if you're not used to it, and she's a scrapper. And, Bouzakis is a little fighter, but she's also very technical and was able to, work through that style. But, there was no quitting. But really by either, because, Bouzakis could have given up the fall there. I mean, she fought for her life. And it was one of these ones, if you watch, like, I only saw it once, but when her arm's being raised, she's like, I dodged a bullet there, and I'd like to see that one again. It was just a great match, really the match of the finals by far.
She wasn't happy. She said that in her interview. She said, I need to go back and work on my conditioning.
In the beginning, I was able to, keep my pace up, get a few takedowns, and, get the score up running a bit. And then towards the end, getting tired, I definitely need to work on my gas tank. I let a few things slip. She took me down a few times. At the end, it was a real fight.
This actually comes on the heels of a 10-0 tech that she had over Valdez in the high school girls recruiting showcase during the U.S. Open. And so she had a chance again, and it looked like she might have gotten a tech right away. But Valdez is tough, and I think McKendry has a good one.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to argue, even though she's probably not feeling it, but I'm not speaking for her because she said it herself, she wasn't happy with that. But things like that make you better. You learn from that. You learn from what you do wrong. Could you shut it down better? Could you have been smarter? She's probably thinking, I'll get one more point for the tech. But, it was a wild scramble. How do I avoid that? But she also learned things about herself that she's not a quitter and fought through extreme adversity at the end of the match with somebody trying really hard to get the fall there and pretty much doing things right. Perhaps she could have lifted the head a little bit earlier when the clock was ticking, but she improved that position and did things right. So, I mean, there's a lot to learn for both of them, I think, and Bouzakis will be better for it. It's nice to survive that. Maybe it stings a little more, makes you remember more if you lose that one. I don't know, but we'll give her that she won it and fought through it. But it was a great match.
It reminds me of those boxing matches or MMA where it's just an absolute slugfest and you get done and you say the fans won and no one comes away a loser in that situation. And I really feel that way. I feel like we won because of that match, and it certainly was the highlight of Fargo.
Yeah, absolutely. And the end was just a surprise. And to see you saw, I texted, wow. When it was going on, it was just crazy. Yeah, really good match.
Sarissa Tucker and Julia Horger wrestled their 7th match. It's 4-3 in favor of Tucker at this point, but
another one of those.
I know, rivalries. 113 points combined between all 7 matches, and 4 of those ended in fall. It was 12-9 in the semifinals during this time around. And these are fun when you get rivalries and they don't want to back down. They're still in high school. 7 matches so far. Let's hope we double that and get 7 more by the end of this.
We've seen this where you have, the Chavez, Sage Mortimer one, and then there was what was it, Pennsylvania one?
Jordan Faust and Isis France.
Yeah, France and Faust. You have these, and then sometimes you have them, and then they massively separate with weight. So you don't know how it's going to ultimately play out, but they're fun when they happen. And the fact that they're scoring that many points is pretty insane.
105, I thought, was the most compelling weight class. It was tough. Heather Crull dominated her way through, and we've seen Heather Crull talked a lot about her this season. She has looked good at 50 kilograms, which is about 110 pounds. She moves down about 5 pounds, and really the class of the field. And I think from last year to this year, she has won 2 Fargo titles already. I think she looks better than ever, and I think she's college ready right now. She's also going to McKendry, and so I think Coach Alexio Garcia has a good one in her and dominating through what I thought was the best weight class at Fargo.
Yeah, and I think in her case, to me, because I watched her matches, this was a tough weight class. She had even though if you look at the scores, she dominated, but it wasn't like people rolling over. Like, there were good wrestlers. She had to work her way through and she fought. It was a tough way. Neuenhuis is tough. I mean, it was a tough weight class. The finals were tough. I mean, even though she ultimately, you look at the scores, but to me, sometimes it can be, a little deceiving. I mean, not taking anything away from her, but it was not like she just had a walk in the park through this weight class. There were good competitors, which makes her, performance even more notable, that she ultimately dominated everybody, but it was not without work, on the mat. And it was definitely the deepest weight class. She's ready for the next level. She will be very good.
110 pounds collegiately is going to be a lot of fun if you get her into the mix and you get some
Yeah.
returning national champions from Iowa. Which one they pick, I don't know. It might be Nyla Valencia for all we know, but it's turning out to be the weight class
Um,
of all weight
yeah.
classes.
I mean, mentioning that name, I'm looking forward, God willing, to see a healthy Nyla Valencia because she's really good. And if she's, healthy again, it'll be interesting to see where she is. That's a very deep weight in college. It'll be good. She'll be right up there, I think, Krull with everybody. Not like the senior world team level, Jimenez, but she's very good.
Another one, I think you might be had been on a flight when this was going on. Olivia Davis and Violette Lasure. Lasure won 12-7. Lasure got taken down on a 4-point throw right at the beginning, and then she had to chip her way back. But I thought Davis really stayed poised and she didn't concede. And I just think her mental toughness has gone up since Super 32, where she didn't play. She makes the Fargo finals. Violette Lasure on a U17 world team. So I think
Lasure's very good.
yeah,
Yeah.
and hanging in there, and you saw again. I think you walk away from that thinking a lot of Lasure because you give up a big four, and then you're able to find your way back, and you never concede anything, and you're able to pull away and get a 12-7 win. But Olivia Davis hung in there, didn't concede anything either, and you get 19 points out of the deal. I love it.
My one negative. Okay, I'll just say my big positive. The numbers are phenomenal. It's unbelievable how this tournament's grown. And whenever we say that, we're going to have the conversation 3 years from now. It's going to be bigger. And then three. And, you don't have all the superstars. Some are competing at Pan-Ams or getting ready for Age Group Worlds or just need a little break. It depends on timing and personal preferences for, what you want to peak for or you just want to keep wrestle all the time. The one thing I just think we have to, as a country, get two things is we have to get better as a country. That I don't like what I see. The baseline defense against leg attacks is, broadly speaking, horrible. People, their hands, they reach high. Their hands are not where they should be. They don't sprawl. There's just a lot of people get to legs a lot easier than they should. And listen, there's some people that want somebody to be on their leg and they're really funky. That's not what I'm talking about. There's some people, and you don't normally see that at this level, to be honest with you. Somebody's really a Seth Gross or Jack Sparrows, really creative with somebody on their leg. You get some people that think they want somebody on their leg and the crotch lift them, but somebody's really good at leg attacks. They would probably score anyway, but it's just a fundamental skill, sprawling, short offense, getting into front headlocks, trying to down block, just stop shots at the first baseline level. It's a fundamental skill that's necessary. And we reach too much and people are obsessed with going upper body at this level. Way more. There's too much reaching and upper body initiation as opposed to leg attacks. And I love upper body, but you've got to be able to defend leg attacks and initiate leg attacks. The second thing, the ratio in parterre of gut wrenches to leg laces is atrocious. I don't know if I saw one straight gut wrench, where somebody literally takes somebody down, they belly out, and they work into a gut wrench lock, however they're getting to the lock, and then literally just gutting somebody that's trying to defend it with, good parterre defense. You just don't see that. And maybe somebody falls into a gut or a trap gut. You see a little of that. And more, they kind of do it off tilts, like folk style type tilts, but you don't see straight gut wrenches. That ratio is way too low. We need to be gutting more. You need both, ultimately. One will be a better attack, but you need to understand both. And as a country, for our youth, we don't do enough of it. Just watching today and yesterday.
Let's go back to something you've talked about in previous shows on the brutality, where we used the example of Sage Mortimer against Emily Shilson, where Mortimer got disqualified for brutality. Actually got kicked out of the entire tournament. All of her matches were gone, and she wasn't able to make an international trip.
He never even showed up at the tournament. It's like it never existed.
Yeah,
they
never
scratched her flights.
Existed. And you brought up 5-point throws, you land on your neck. We have an example here where J.L. Miller hit a big 5-point throw, knocked out her opponent in the finals, and it was a scary, tense moment. And so it is interesting how you can have this situation with brutality where you're trying to clear the arm or clear the hand in a situation, and then you can throw someone and you go right in your neck. It can be scary in freestyle.
Bouzakis hit a great belly to back, I think, where there was a picture of it somewhere I saw where this person lands on their neck. And I would argue the difference is if somebody has you in short offense and banging their head, you can choose to put your hands down. Then they can choose to go behind you, but you're letting go of the elbow, right? You can choose to do that. When somebody's behind you in a belly to back, there's really not that much you can do other than land on your neck. You can't bail out. Yeah, I mean, there's really not much you can do. You're just about to get launched on your neck. So it's an inconsistency. I stand by the fact that Sage Warren should not have been disqualified for that. And it was not excessive brutality, and freestyle's a brutal sport. But, it is an inconsistency for sure. But you can literally take somebody, if you're strong enough, throw them in the air, let them go, and they can land on their head.
Eve Skrocki and Nora Akpan both had late wins, got a takedown in, I think it was right around 5 seconds to go. But it's cool to see that because you always know in Fargo finals something goofy is going to happen or there's going to be a memorable moment. They had a couple, so it's fun to know that they were able to push through to the finish line and come up with big wins. That's what Fargo is all about.
Some of the brackets fell apart where you had, now that I understand a little better, I won't say this strongly, like with some of the 1 or 2 seeds, like, got lost in the first or second round, and then the other person lost, and then people that were seeded very high didn't play, so maybe they shouldn't have been 1 or 2, but they were definitely a top 4 seed, based on this pin. But some of the brackets fell apart, and some were chalk. It was kind of funny. You could look, 120, 130, I think, fell apart, and then 125 was chalk. I mean, some were chalk. It was just, you just never know. But the numbers are just, and you look at I would look at brackets of like more than 128. So there were matches to get to the 128. And that's amazing. And then the amount of matches on the backside is really insane because, there's just so many. But, USA Wrestling, they ran this tournament very well, I think. It's a great tournament, we talked about the thing, well, I think they need to address, is there 2 separate tournaments or can you do both, or not? I'd like a little clarity on that, but it's a great tournament. If you love wrestling, you love this tournament. It's just it's phenomenal.
Here's the question. Not which is more prestigious, because the answer is Fargo. Which is tougher, Fargo or U20 Pan-Ams?
Fargo or U20 Pan-Ams?
Which just took place, by the way. We just had those. We had some
to win.
To win.
I'm going to say it's really weight. I don't know if there's going to be weight classes in U20 Pan-Ams where it may be tough to medal, and there are weights that we can trounce through. Somebody who we think's mediocre pecks everybody. Fargo's deeper for sure, but you could have some badass Cuban or, Ecuadorian at U20s that maybe will annihilate the Fargo champ. I mean, not if it's Taina Fernanez or, Heather Crull or somebody, or Bouzakis, but, the average Fargo champ against the average Pan-Am U20 champ, Fargo. I don't know. I don't know, though, because our world team is wrestling in the U20 Pan-Ams now. It's not even the second. Probably I'll go with U20. What do you think?
I think
good question.
Yeah, I think it has to be the answer what you said there. It's got to be dependent on what the weight is. And I know that's a cop-out. If you want me to go overall, I got to say U20 Pan-Ams. Just because you're going international, you're going overseas, you're getting different styles, you're getting probably more grown women at that point. You're getting 18, 19, 20-year-olds. I just think probably
you're also having, at that age, at least half the Canadian team is very good, if not more. Like, Canada's tough. So you're going to have somebody good from Canada. There's somebody good from the U.S., really good. The world team is, or the seconds, right, from Body Bar. And you're going to randomly have, I didn't see Cuba, by the way, at this, the girl. I didn't see Cuba. And normally you'll have Cuba, Mexico will have some tough people. Ecuador is good. You'll randomly have some tough Venezuelans. You'll have a Peruvian here or there. I mean, it's an Argentinian, but again, those teams aren't sending full teams, all of them. But the ones they send are normally decent. They may send three, or a couple of hammers from some of those countries. And it's also a style that we're not really used to it. It's a fight. The Pan-Ams, it's a fight. We normally annihilate people because we're actually pretty good at wrestling, and our people are pretty vetted to get to go there,
Another thing, Scott, that we need to mention, Natalie Radecki became the first woman from Delaware to win a junior national championship, really a Fargo title between both divisions. I think that's cool. And then you have Connecticut, Kayla Batres won at 110 pounds. It's fun to see some of these states that you normally don't think of as the big monster wrestling states going out and winning Fargo titles. That's special.
Just as the sanctioning has gone up throughout the country, you're just getting more depth in some of these states. And, we're now almost sanctioned in every state. And, and Batres, very impressive, by the way. Yeah, she's very good. So I love seeing, Connecticut, Delaware. I mean, it's good stuff that you're getting variety and you're getting some really good athletes from some of these states.
New Jersey's good. Carbonaro, we talked about her.
Very impressive. New Jersey had a really, really good team, I thought, and a bunch of athletes that look very good. Carbonaro, very good, yeah.
Another thing I like is I just love some of the creativity on the singlets. I thought New Jersey had a good singlet. Sarissa Tucker with Virginia, they looked like she had a belt on there with her singlet. So it's cool that you get into that. And just the feel and the flavor and the pageantry of Fargo, it's like no other tournament.
The level at, let's say, Body Bar, women's nationals and world team trials is more individual and it's more game on. I mean, but Fargo, it's just a fun, you have all these different states, people mingling with teams from other states, hanging out, training together. I like now they have the names on the singlets, a lot of the athletes, they didn't do that years ago. So there's more of it's got a fun vibe. I'm not saying that when the tournament doesn't start, people want to win it. It's not serious, because it is. But it's a little more of a camaraderie. It's in the summer and the people, meet each other. And, it's kind of like a festival almost, it's like a multi-state wrestling festival kind of. And it's fun. And the numbers are amazing. And, I just remember seeing a picture, of everybody just warming up. And you just see this swarm of ladies on all these mats. It's just amazing, how this has grown. And a lot of people worked hard for it, and it's kind of happened. It's only going to get bigger.
Here's the state that has grown at lightning speed. Pennsylvania, they just sanctioned a couple years ago, and they are double team Fargo champions. They won 16U and junior division. They have a tight team. They are thinking about each other. They work out together. They train together. I think they have a good club system. We just brought up earlier Camilla Hathaway. She's in Pittsburgh. There's a great club there. Jody Horger, who is Julia's mom, started Misfits, and I think she's really done a good job of bringing team unity. It seems like they know each other. They train together, and Pennsylvania is really leading the way right now. They are the best women's wrestling state right now.
Yeah, I mean, California was kind of the pioneer. California, maybe Hawaii. It was more on the West Coast of women's wrestling. In Texas, and then, Pennsylvania was late, but they've showed up, pretty strongly to the party, and they have, really good, just really good teams. I mean, and I like the way they wrestle. They're fundamentally good. You kind of knew it was going to happen. Again, it was perplexing why it took so long, but they made up for it, and at the Grand Prix of Spain, 3 of the 4 athletes were from Pennsylvania, and they, adopted Nugent, with them. I think she lives or trains with them. So it's it's a lot of camaraderie, a lot of good athletes. California had bigger teams and they had more people surviving, I think, the first day. But I think Pennsylvania won it with the higher placers, ultimately.
And you have names that you're just recognizing all being from PA, and they're competing at these tournaments, and you recognize them for being part of Pennsylvania. You have Juliette Alt and her sister Violette Lasure, who we brought up earlier. They're training together. They're competing against each other every day. And then they carry that over. And as we started the show with Camilla Hathaway, she's getting in the fold and she's part of that Pennsylvania pipeline. When they're good in college wrestling, they're bringing everyone with them. And it feels that way with PA.
Now that Lehigh added, I'm sure at some point, University of Pennsylvania, at some point, maybe Pitt will have a women's team at some point. It would make sense, I mean, you have Gannon, right? But maybe Western PA also. You have Pitt at some point. It's just going to keep growing. And, maybe Penn State at some point. I don't know if Kale would ever allow that, but who knows?
Talking about Pennsylvania, Lehigh, I think they are going to do some damage at the NCAA Women's Championships, the inaugural in 2026. But it looks like Division III is working towards splitting off from Division I and Division II. No surprise here. They are non-athletic scholarships, so it'd be just like the men, where the Division III programs, Augsburg, Wartburg, Johnson and Wales, and the like, they're competing against similar institutions. You had to figure it was going to happen for the women. Still would like to see Division III stay with them for a little bit as the sport grows, but it sounds like 2028 championships is likely the time for the split.
That might be the right time. It's another couple of years. Again, we'll see how it plays out. But I think you wrote a great article, comparing where the points came from. But if you break it down, just look at the divisions. It looks like Division III is doing fine, but then it's really North Central is the lion's share of those points. So that's not it's a little deceiving, really. And and then you have a lot of schools, Division III, that have programs that didn't qualify people, or maybe one qualifier, and that's not what the athletes want. They want to have a chance to compete at the playoffs or the next level for national title.
Scott, we'll end with this. We had a couple coaches. One text messaged us and the other told me that they like your rants, especially the one you had last week about Michaela wrestling in the formerly known as Body Bar, and the situation where the referee allowed a brick to happen after 2 stoppages. They agreed, and one of the coaches said we need Scott to look at the rule book so we can go off on that.
Yeah, well, evidently there's a couple of things he wants me to take a look at. You've mentioned to me. I'll take a dive on it, and if I don't think it's fair, I'll rant. I mean, I'm cool with ranting as long as we do it with information and knowledge, as opposed to just emotionally. So I'd like to believe mine are backed in with some knowledge and some thought, and I'll do them as long as I don't embarrass my daughter.